Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Kalen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. Hey, Sam. How are you?
Kalen, how's it going this morning?
It's going well.
Life is fast and furious, eh?
Life comes at you hard and fast, and you got to duck or catch the ball, one or the other.
Well, I guess, that's fair, right?
Right.
Not every day is great. I'm having a good day.
Are you having a good day?
It was really busy at work this morning, and I've been doing more kind of behind the bar stuff, which I haven't had an opportunity to do for a long time. And I'm training some people. I'm really seeing a lot of places where my training is going to really help, and I can see it already happening. And
nice.
I love it. So when I went in this morning, it was freaking busy and slamming, and I got some flow going where there was no flow, and
nice.
it just felt
like you're
good,
in control
right?
of your business.
I know. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I
but
like
it's funny, though, because you actually put the effort in and then you see the result like almost instantly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like teaching people how to dance, right?
Yeah.
You can turn the music on, but they got to know what they're doing.
They got to know the moves, man.
They got to know the moves. And who better to talk about choreographing kitchen movement than our good friend, Peter Zambri.
Peter Zambri, welcome to the show. How are you?
It used to make me laugh. I love it.
This will be an hour of laughter, I
So
hope.
jovial.
We're very jovial.
When we're not crying in each other's arms, we're jovial.
Yes.
Yeah, we often cry in each other's arms.
Well-
But you and I, because Peter and I are business partners and family for going back
25
years,
in
25,
business.
26, 25
Well,
years
we're in
in
our
business, but
25th, we're in our 25th year.
Yeah, at Zambri's,
In Zambri, yeah.
which is crazy. I'm more interested in the early years. Obviously, I know some of the stories and stuff, but I think our listeners would appreciate, what the difference between hospitality today versus where it was when you started and what got you in the business.
Well, but even before we get there, I mean, there might be people who don't know who Peter Zambri is. I mean, I did a Wikipedia search, so I was surprised to see that you look so good for being 73 and a lawyer from Toronto.
Was there really a Peter Zambri in Toronto as a lawyer?
No, I'm just making that up.
I know there's a Peter Zambri in the States somewhere, and he's like a black
there's
belt
some
karate
Zambri
teacher.
Okay, yeah. It's always fun to look up your own name, right? And see what happens. Peter Zambri is
There's not many Zambris out there, I don't think.
No.
And in Toronto, there's pretty much almost none.
Huh.
just
Like
the ones
my
you're
father
related
was
to.
an only boy, and I was an only boy, and I don't have kids, so the buck stops here.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Peter Zambri is co-owner of Zambri's and the inspirational cook behind the food, and part owner of Big Wheel Burger, of course, as well.
Thanks to Kalen.
Well,
Kalen does most of the work.
Lots of things are
On
thanks
that,
to Kalen,
but
right?
it's all, I handle the business end and all that stuff, but it's been a fantastic partnership.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I'm more of the hands-on kind of person. Like Kalen has the ability to plan and to look at the big picture and to maneuver and he has the gift of gab when it comes to the whole financial part of it and the structuring of business and talking to the lawyers and all that other stuff. And I work with my hands.
They're different languages.
Yeah.
So that's something I could never do either.
Right.
I mean, I've acquired some ability, knowing and understanding, but the ability to be able to take this ingredient or that ingredient and make it so flavorful and sell it and make it a profitable business is kind of my end. But actually the product end and the service end is all down to Peter and obviously
and
then Joe,
and the
as
team
well,
and Joe
right?
Zambri is
Joe
part
Zambri,
of that.
the other one.
Peter's sister, my ex-wife. But we have a wonderful team there at Zambri's now, and the team kind of runs it now, which is a nice position to be in. But I think the passion is the one thing that we have a ton of, and attention to detail on what's important to make it work and not relent on that. And I think that is one thing. And it obviously causes some stress because we're even the littlest of modification to what we want, we're very quick to jump on it. But we just had a staff party, and it was interesting to see how many employees that we've had for like more than a decade that are still with us in that group, and even ones that were with us for years and then moved on, but then still work with us. We're there, and just to talk about that history and also that passion. And Matthias, who is a new addition to our team, along with his wife, Emily, said it very succinctly about the punishment of what we do, but the passion and attention to detail, and the sort of like, my last name is McNeil, and one of our family monikers from Scotland is victory or death. And he described the hospitality business as either you succeed or you die, but you give it your all. And I think that was put very succinctly and describes what the experience is after 25 years. I mean, you've been cooking since you were 16, I think.
Yeah.
So
I've been in the
I mean, that's like been 100 years
or
now.
basically cooking. It's 100 years. Yeah, I've been cooking for as far back as I can remember.
So where were you when you stumbled on cooking? Like, what was the inspiration? Obviously, I know the family. Your mom was an amazing cook. And
it's really hard to answer that because it seems like when I look back, it was just always something that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, here's a little example. When I went into high school, there wasn't any hot meals. There were vending machines in my high school cafeteria. And of course, everybody brought their own lunch. But every once in a while, you get a sandwich out of the vending machine. And I don't know, I was 14 or 15 maybe. And so I would get a sandwich out of the vending machine every once in a while. And I would go home and make it better. You know what I mean? It was just, I would say, oh, I can make this better. And it wasn't just like that with cooking. It was like with everything, because I almost went down the path of being a graphic artist. I did that after high school for 6 months. I went to college, Seneca College in Toronto, for 6 months. And at that time, I was already working in the food industry. I had been a dishwasher, and then the chef that I was working for, his name was Chris Neep, who I've looked for countless times on the Instagram and the Facebook and all that other stuff, right? And I just can't find him because I just wanted to connect with him.
Right.
Anyway, he saw I was a dishwasher. He was a chef that came into the restaurant I was working at. My friend Rob Bergerman was a waiter in high school, believe it or not. And he's like, yeah, we need dishwashers. So I applied, and you apply as a dishwasher, you're going to get the job if you have any sense about you. And so I did that for probably 3 or 4 months, and he saw that I was capable of doing more. So he put me, this chef Chris Neep, put me into the position of saladier, or like antipasties and appetizers and stuff like that, and I flourished fairly well. But at the same time, I was still in high school, and then I went to college, and I was going to be a graphic artist, working concurrently in the kitchen. And I'm like, sitting around in the desk by yourself and draw, or be part of this like dynamic kind of environment where people would go out into the back and smoke a joint before service. There was profanity. There was like this energy happening at service time. You had to go in, prep all your food. You had to be fast. And I guess that appealed to me more than being an artist.
Was it the challenge of doing that? Because I know you work really hard, and to hear you say that you wanted to take not only the sandwich that you bought at school out of a vending machine and go make it better, but you wanted to do that with other things. Was that like a internal challenge that you feel a lot, just to make things better or do things in a not harder way, but a better way, in your own way?
Yeah, and it's been like that forever. No matter what it was. Even like when I was young, I used to like playing golf, and like I would go and practice by myself for hours, and I loved it. Right, like I used to play ball hockey with my friends in elementary school and high school, and I would go in my garage and just practice for hours, just because I liked doing it. And the same thing with cooking. You kind of like, I got to the point where I just did things on my own. Yeah, so I did for as far back as I can remember, watching my mother cook and my grandfather who took care of us. He used to make all of his own things as well, and so there was always that around. There was never really any packaged foods or anything. It was always everything was made from nothing really.
And did you have like a family meal every Sunday
Oh
or
no,
whatever it was?
every night.
Every night was fit at the table, sit
Every
down.
night, everybody sat around the table. Me, my sister Josephine, my sister Lisa, my grandfather, and my mom and dad. Sat around the table every night. And that's like probably, from, elementary school, from when you're a baby all the way up to as far, into even college and high school. We all sat down together and ate. And, looking back, it's important. It's an important thing to make sure that you have time to spend with your family and have family meals. It's a little bit different, I think, nowadays. I'm not really sure because I don't have any kids, but yeah, having a meal with the family every night is important to talk about matters, see how school was going. Mom and dad are doing this. Where do we want to go for vacation? Amongst
Talk
other
about things in the world so
Yeah,
your kids
exactly.
understand.
Yeah, what
Exactly.
a great foundation of family, and I think that's what dining and breaking bread and that whole hospitality thing is, and it originates in those traditional family environments. In this day and age, everybody's busy and consumed with time, but the ones I think the benefit that it's like, it's like investing, right? Like I think your family invested in that and the bond that was created from that, all those stories and the relationships and your connection with food all came from that. I remember, I'll tell a quick story when I first started dating Joe Zambri, and the first time I met, we surprised their family in Toronto, and I think Peter was in Italy at the time, but Joe and I just showed up and we arranged it with their sister Lisa that we just surprise her mom. And so we show up and I have zero expectation of anything. I've had no experience with Italian culture or even my food awareness and knowledge was very rudimentary. I just ate to live. I, didn't really connect the dots on the cultural experience of dining. So we show up there and literally they had we're two extra people, but your grandmother was there. Your aunt was there, just happened to be there. And I guess maybe Lisa made sure that there's a few other people there, but we sit down to eat and I'm literally like, I think we had the sausages or we had the pasta course first. And then we had the sausages and peppers, and I'm filling out all this. And then all of a sudden the pizza comes out, and then the pork comes out. There's like, oh my God, like there was so much food. And this was completely unexpected, but just an example of a family meal that they have regularly. And I think it was a Sunday or something like that. So I was just blown away. So obviously, I was full after the first dish thinking that was it. When I grew up, I had to fight for the food I ate, so I just would eat it. But it was such an amazing experience, but it describes what Peter did throughout his whole upbringing.
Well, I'm
Right.
I'm very lucky. I've never had an issue with food. Like some people do, like or lack of food or I don't like this or
Yeah,
I
or
don't like
pickiness.
that or picking like I have had zero issues surrounding the
Well, that's because
meals
you're
and
exposed
food.
at a young age too. Like we look at our customers that come into Zambris and multi-generational, like, your kids have come through Zambris and other families' kids have come through Zambris. And when they eat food, real food, but also exposed to the variety of it at a young age, wow, does that ever open the doors for them as they get older? Because now they don't have any, eating issues with respect to what they eat or not. They have a wide variety of tastes. Their profile is developed early. And it's such a huge, I think it's an understated or under-recognized fact of life as far as enjoying life and just giving that as much as, educating yourself is important. I think, expanding your taste buds, but that starts at a young age, which you were exposed to.
Yeah. Well, we used to go to my grandmother's house every Sunday, the whole family, me and my sisters, obviously my parents, my aunts and uncles, and everybody would sit around the table and eat, and then we would go and watch like Abbott and Costello, or the kids would take
Yeah.
off, right? Yeah, every Sunday. So when you're exposed to that, I think it kind of like it sets the tone for the rest of your life at such a young age, and plants a seed. I was really kind of fortunate that my grandfather was a huge influence in my upbringing, because like my parents worked, right. My grandfather, he made us whatever we wanted. He made our lunch. He made all of our lunches, and he made our lunches. He made our breakfast. He made his raviolis. He was basically the patriarch of the household.
And was that on your mom's or your dad's side? Of the
My
family?
mom's side.
On your mom's
Yeah.
side.
Matter of fact, like, and I'm happy to. At one point in my life, I guess when I was a little bit younger, I was like maybe embarrassed to say that. Now I'm happy about the fact that I lived in or shared a room with my grandfather until I was like 21 or 2 years old. Like we actually shared a room.
Yeah, that's
It's,
crazy.
right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
But it's
crazy.
quite it's kind of touching in the
It is
same
really
way.
touching.
Like he was, and I am the same to this very day. Like he was super generous, and I feel that I'm the same way, especially with the food part. And then,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
and I got to tell you, like living in Italy and getting accepted into a family that which was my working family, like
Yeah.
my working family, the people in the restaurant that I worked at. But the chef kind of took me underneath his wing because, I was 28 or 7 years old, and I was by the time I had gotten there, I was already very skilled, and he took me under his wing and treated me with unbelievable generosity, and I'm really kind of fortunate for that, because I feel that I do the same with my staff, and I always have.
And so you went to Italy for training, for experience.
I did. I started as I said in a small restaurant in Toronto, working as a dishwasher, and then kind of moving up. And then that chef that saw that I had some promise. He got fired because I don't even remember.
Poor
why.
decision making.
No, no. I
It's probably
think.
more sorted than that back in the
Yeah,
day.
Yeah, I think it had something.
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
I was probably a little bit worse than that.
Yeah.
And so then he got fired, but I kept in contact with him, and then he got a job in Bayfield, Ontario, which is on Lake Huron. And I guess, I don't know, I was probably 17. He was like, "Do you want to come and work in this small community for the summertime?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I'd love to do that, and I would be able to learn more rather than just like salads and whatnot. And so he took me and kind of groomed me for a whole summer. It was great living away from home at 17. It was kind of getting a little drunk. First time ever. But yeah, so that was really influential. And one other story is, like, I remember there was this guy's name, and I'll never forget it. And these things are important when you're a kid, is making sure that people know, like me as a chef now, seeing a young and up and coming person who wants to cook, making sure that they get recognized for their hard work, right? And for their creativity or whatever it might be. I was, again, at Dunkelman's doing something, and this guy Vinny, and I always looked up to Vinny, even though he was crazy, right? Like all of Anthony Bourdain stories, they're true.
It's reminding me a lot of that.
They're
actually,
true,
listening.
right?
Yeah.
And this guy Vinny was like this really big person, loud voice, big heart, but he was super professional at the same time. And he left or something, and somebody wanted a bowl of pasta, and I made them a bowl of pasta, and I made it look really nice and tasty. And he walked by and he looked at it, and he was like, "Who did that?" Kind of in this voice that, am I in trouble? And I said, "I did." And he looked over at me and he's like, "Yeah, I knew it." right? And that kind of like acknowledgement, again, I remember that to this day.
Yeah.
That kind of like propelled me into being like, oh, okay, well,
I got something
I
here.
got something here. I'm okay at this.
Not just hearing criticism and negativity,
Yeah.
but hearing
Yeah.
good things as well.
Yeah, which is completely.
Well, and him getting out of his
reinforcing.
ego way, like not being, a lot of people gatekeep that, like, oh, I don't want someone else to be doing good work. I'm not going to
Yeah.
promote it, but to acknowledge it, and then also not try to stifle it. It's like, hey, I knew you had it in you, kind
Yeah.
of thing. I think
Vinny.
that's awesome, Vinny.
Vinny. So thanks, Vinny, wherever you are. And then I went and worked in Bayfield, Ontario, and kind of got better. And then that chef, that Christopher, his name was, he had done an apprenticeship at a hotel in Toronto called the Windsor Arms Hotel, and it was kind of like this English manor, beautiful, like the police used to stay there, the Rolling Stones would stay there. Like it was a small boutique hotel. It was quite pleasant, and he's like, you should try and get an apprenticeship at the Windsor Arms Hotel because that's where you're going to get the best training. So I applied. When I got back to Toronto, I applied, and within 3 or 4 months, they called me and I went in for 3 interviews, believe it or not, which is like
Wow, that's crazy.
for an apprenticeship.
Standard now,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
crazy back then.
Yeah, 3 interviews,
Yeah.
and I got the job, and that was the team and a half working at the Windsor Arms Hotel.
What's the difference? Sorry, because I hear, and how I grew up in hospitality was only in individually owned places. I never worked in a hotel, and I know lots of people who did. What's the difference for cooking, working in a hotel versus working for a privately owned restaurant?
The production is different. Like unless you're working in a really big restaurant, when you're working in a hotel, there's so many different outlets. You have probably 2 or 3 restaurants within the hotel. Like if you're like this hotel had, I don't know, probably 120 rooms or something like that. But if you're working in a hotel that's got 400 rooms, the food service is huge, right? You have your chef or executive chef at the top. Then you have, banquet chef and catering chef and room service chef. And then you have your sous chefs. So it's like this big hierarchy. Okay. And there's just more to do. And you can actually learn more working in a hotel. I'm not going to say learn better, but you probably will learn more. There's baking, there's the pastry chef, right? And the Windsor Arms Hotel, it was a small hotel, but it was a great team. There's a few people that are in the hotel, the BC Restaurant Hall of Fame that actually I worked with there. Rob Clark, I don't know if you know that name
Rob
or not.
Clark, yeah.
Rob Clark being one of them. And yes, it was unreal training because I got to go from the fish station in which I just filleted fish and dealt with all the fish for every outlet for like 6 months. That's where I started. So by the time I had gotten out of that station, my filleting skills already at 18 or 19 years old were like pretty bang on because that's what I had to do all day. And then from there, I went into the butcher station. So like my butchering skills like increased and I got to learn about butchering for 6 months. Now from that station, I went and worked upstairs to a restaurant that was 300 seats. So it's high volume, right? The pressure is on. You got to make sure that things are done proper. And then we all wanted to get to the upper echelon of restaurants in that hotel, and it was called the 3 Small Rooms. So we got into the 3 Small Rooms, and that's where you kind of refined your skills. And then you went and worked in the pastry department. So all of those things together kind of like makes you a well-rounded.
It's almost like a
kind of
university, really.
is.
Like it would be
Yeah.
a perfect university setting to learn,
But
in a
it is.
commercial
It's like a
environment.
practical culinary
Yeah.
school, eh?
And I'm lucky because I have like good hands and good hand-eye coordination, and I'm a fairly quick learner. So because of that, I moved up the ladder pretty quick. And then that was like 3.5-year apprenticeship, and it was great. I loved it. It was fun. I said the team there was incredible. If I looking back, that was like I have never worked with such talented people.
And you're still friends with some of them as well.
I am. Yeah, Daryl Grant, for example, he lives here. He doesn't cook anymore. He's a good friend of mine. Rob Clark. Yeah, like the executive chef at that time was only 28 years old. His name was Michael Bonaccini, and they have a whole bunch of restaurants in Toronto. The Bonaccini group, like 4 or 10 or something. I don't even know anymore. I don't associate that much with Toronto, to be honest with you.
And at this time, you were in your early 20s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I started my apprenticeship when I was probably 18 or 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. It was almost like 4 years. I loved it.
And
it
then
was great.
Between your apprenticeship and your time in Italy,
as soon as my apprenticeship was finished, Jordy Hobart actually as well, who doesn't
of the Hobart family.
No. He did his apprenticeship as well at the Windsor Arms Hotel, and he had told me about this place called the Sauk Harbor House, right? So I had when I had finished my apprenticeship, I'm like, maybe I'll leave Toronto, and I applied at the Sauk Harbor House, and the owner there, Sinclair Phillip, got my resume and was like, we only have one job position right now, and you're not qualified enough. You had just finished your apprenticeship. So he gave that resume to this chef. His name is Gordon Cowan, who actually ended up teaching up in Malaspina. And Gordon Cowan had moved to Vancouver, and he was the executive chef of the Wedgwood Hotel. So through Sinclair, Gordon got my resume, but at the same time, I had applied at the Chateau Whistler, which was just about to open, and I had gotten a job at the Chateau Whistler. I got a phone call from Gordon Cowan saying, I hear that you're coming out to Vancouver and we need cooks, and I could offer you more money in a better position than going to the Chateau Whistler. So I thought about it, and it made sense to me to go and be more one-on-one rather than back into a big hotel environment.
Right.
Like the Wedgwood's a hotel, but it's a smaller hotel.
Right.
So I had the opportunity to do more things. So I took the job with Gordon Cowan. I flew out here not knowing a single person other than Jordy. Jordy came and picked me up George Hobart came and picked me up at the airport. I had a beer. The next day I was at the Wedgwood Hotel. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting there with Elena Scalbania, who was the owner, and talking to her. And Gordon comes in, and she's like, "Oh, Gordon, Peter's here." And he walks in, and and the chefs that I worked for in Toronto, they were always well dressed. You know what I mean? Classy. Gordon comes in, he's got rubber boots on and track pants and a lumber jacket. And he looks over and he's like, "Peter who?" I was crushed.
You're crushed.
I was
I'm Peter Zambri from those.
I'm here to work for you.
Yeah.
Anyways, started working there, and we hit it off fairly well. And yeah, Gordon was absolutely great. He taught me things that I had never learned at the Windsor Arms Hotel.
Yeah.
How to think out of the box, right? Which was very, very instrumental in my career.
He's a good teacher too.
Great teacher,
Yeah.
super smart,
Yeah.
Amazing cook.
Yeah.
And he kind of again took. That's where I met Edward as well at the
Edward Tucson.
Tucson. Yeah. I met him. He started a month after I did, and Gordon took a liking to both of us because we had attitude. Right, we knew that we were skilled. We had a good work ethic, and we were willing to put in the time. And it didn't matter. I didn't care how much money I was making. Yeah. That was the least of my concern. Well, my concern was learning how to cook better. So I did that for a year, and then actually I went up to the Chateau Whistler and worked there for 8 months or something, and that's when I got a call from Sinclair Phillip again saying, "Okay, well, it's a year and a half now since you've been finished your apprenticeship. We have a space open," and so from the Chateau Whistler, I took my friend's car, my friend Todd Conrad. I'm like, "Can I borrow your car? I got to go to the island." I didn't even make it past Squamish. The whole wheel of his car fell off. I'll never forget it. I'm screeching down the highway, white knuckling.
That's not a good highway.
Sparks coming off, right?
Man.
And the tire and rim and everything just comes flying right by me.
Is he gonna beat you to
Pull
soup?
over.
Oh, that's so.
Hitchhike back to Whistler, go fall asleep, worried, wake up,
Yeah.
knock on Todd's door. Have to tell because we all lived in residence.
Yeah,
right?
resident.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Todd, you're not going to believe this. Anyway, we picked up his car. It was a complete wreck. I did make it a couple days later to the Sue Carver House and got interviewed, and I got the job.
At the time, was the Sue Carver House what it was?
It was
Kind of.
at its pinnacle.
It was there,
Well,
right? Okay.
I'm not to pat my. Yeah, it was.
Was
getting there.
Edward there before
It was
you got
already.
there?
It was
or-
already. Some amazing people had already worked there.
Yeah.
Ron Cherry, Michael Statlander, Gordon Cowan, like really amazing chefs.
Okay.
Because Sinclair and Frederic gave you the opportunity to be creative. Like I'm super lucky in the fact that I've always been trusted enough to be like everybody I've worked for has always been like, just do what you think is best.
Yeah.
Right. And get ready to suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to be led into go into the fridge, look what's there, and make it happen. So I went to the Sue Carver House and spent, 4 years there, and it was really a super instrumental part of my career to just be trusted enough to make beautiful food every day and do whatever we wanted. And the products were incredible as well. This is 1992, 3, 4, and 5. I think 1992, 3, 4, and 5 I worked there.
Okay.
So it's a while ago now, hey?
And you opened Zambri's in 96, right?
No,
99.
99.
Yeah. Well, then Peter, so you're at Sue Carver House.
Yeah.
When
So
did
the team there was amazing as well. There
did
was
you go
myself-
before Edward?
I
'Cause
did.
Edward
yeah.
ended up there as well, right?
And then he stayed.
He
for
stayed
a
longer, yeah.
Yeah. I still remember telling them that if they don't hire Edward, that I was going to quit.
I love it.
If you don't hire this guy, I was going to quit. Edward and
Yeah.
I had already been, established ourselves as friends. We lived together in Vancouver, so on and so forth. And I knew the skill level that he
Brought
had.
to the table and
Yeah.
work ethic and how you
And
guys
that's
work
why I was
together
like
too.
100% positive that he would be an asset to the team at the Windsor at the
Sue
Sue Carver
House.
House.
And at the Sue Carver House, sorry to interrupt, but what job did they hire you for?
We were all considered co-chefs.
Okay. That's an
So
interesting way
nobody
to do
was
it.
more important than the next, as long as we got everything done timely fashion. And like we didn't really have we managed ourselves. David Faze being a huge proponent of that. I have an immense amount of respect for David Faze. Like that guy's he's incredible. Like we were all really young. Like we were in
Yeah,
our-
it's great. Under 30.
We were in our mid-20s
Yeah.
and doing what we were doing. It was incredible. And David is a master organizer. So he organized everything and at the same time cooked. And at the same time, we used to have to go pick up 7 lambs to hang and pick up sour cherries and
Garden.
and
you guys were
garden.
doing incredible stuff.
Yeah,
at
it was-
the
it
Harbor
was-
House, like such high level with ingredients that
It was
you
super,
could even really get
super
now easily.
high level.
You know,
I remember one time, Edward Toussaint and I lived together pretty much for the whole time that we were there. And him and I, of course, we were like fire and water, or vinegar and oil at times. And other times we were just
Like
super
simpatico.
coherent. And at one point we were just so angry at each other, just hated each other. And we didn't even talk. And this lasted about a week. We didn't even talk. We all knew what each other
And you
was
guys- didn't
doing.
you guys
we
live
had to
with
make
each
the menus
other?
together.
Oh, man.
but you guys also lived together too.
We lived together,
Yeah,
right?
in
We had
Sue-
to make
yeah.
the menus together. So I would write my thing and I would throw it over there, and he'd write his thing. And that week we produced, and both of us never forgot it. We produced the most beautiful food we had ever had because we were looking at one-upping each other.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to show this guy.
Yeah.
No chit chat.
I'll get him.
So that was an amazing experience. And Frederica and Sinclair Phillip, God bless them, they were just so generous. Again, I've been surrounded by generosity, so I'm very, very lucky. They were really generous with their time and their money, and their ideas. And Sinclair taught me so much about wine and food in general. Yeah, it was very formative. And then my grandfather, who I lived with, passed away. And as soon as that happened, after being at the Sucarros for about 4 years, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go live in Italy. And I moved to Italy.
Yeah. That's
You
Not
just
knowing
picked up-
anybody.
You would
I
have
knew
moved in,
nobody
what,
there.
95 or 96?
95.
Yeah, 95 or 6.
95, I think
Yeah.
it was. Or, yeah.
Which part of Italy did you end up in?
A friend of mine, her name is Silvana. Her boyfriend at that time was going to George Brown College in Toronto. Right. I went to George Brown for their culinary program as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess by the time I had left, and by the time by that time, they had this program with Italy, whereas they would send students kind of back and forth. So I talked to my friend Silvana, and she's like, "You should go to Bergamo. You should go to Italy, and and see what happens." So I'm like, "Okay, that's a good idea." So I moved to Italy. I didn't know. I knew her boyfriend, John, and other than that, I didn't know anybody. So when I got there, I had my portfolio in hand, no knives because, I didn't want them to think that I was working. I had my portfolio.
Yeah.
I arrived in Bergamo, and one day later, I was in the kitchen, and like the students that were coming from George Brown, they were super green, so to speak. Like they didn't know how to really cook yet, and I'm arriving already accomplished.
Yeah.
Not that much older than anybody,
Yeah.
but accomplished because, again, Sinclair and Frederica were just like you do it.
Yeah.
We used to have to fillet our salmons and we would whole animal butchery, like taking stuff from the garden and making a beautiful product from it. So I was very well versed in making something from nothing in a way. Baking, everything. So when I got to Italy, I had already these amazing skills. And when they noticed that, I was just like, I moved up very, very quickly and into more responsible positions and whatnot. So yeah, I arrive in Italy, and before I know it, I'm like responsible, and I'm working in this amazing restaurant, Taverna de Coglione, in Bergamo, in which I stayed for, I don't know, I was there for probably 3 years. And
My
at the same
Italian
time,
geography is no good. Is it north?
it's in the
middle,
north.
south?
It's in Lombardia.
Okay.
So it's about 45 minutes to an hour out of Milano.
So the food's a
Depends
little
what
bit
train you
lighter
take.
than in the south. Is that right? As
There,
you move north,
it's just
a little
different. It's like there's more butter, cream,
Right.
dairy products. Like you're at the foot of the Alpini Mountains.
Right.
So there's the dairy is unbelievable.
So
Right.
good. Cheese.
Cheese, rice, and you get this. You still have cheeses and whatnot in the south of Italy, but it's a much warmer climate in the south.
Mhm.
So yeah, I got there and just fit right in, and it was great. I did that for 3 years. At the same time, though, concurrently, I worked in a little enoteca. Bar Donizetti. Donizetti is an Italian composer,
Okay.
and from Bergamo. So everything in Bergamo is Donizetti. Via Donizetti, Bar Donizetti, Torta Donizetti, which is cake.
Everything named after
Yeah,
this
absolutely,
composer.
because he was very well known and important as a composer. So I did that, and I met a whole bunch of new people, and yeah, I lived a great life at that point. I was young, I was inspired, right?
Dolce Vita.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was a beautiful time of my life. And I also, at one point, I'm like, okay, maybe I want to do something different while I was in Italy. And I went to Faenza. Faenza is in Emilia-Romagna, and that's a center for ceramic arts. So I did a course in ceramic art for 6 months, thinking that I was going to change everything. But I ended up back in the kitchen eventually. It didn't take long. I went back to Bergamo and worked there at the Bar Donizetti for, I don't know, probably another year after that. They would pay me in black money. It was great.
What's black money? Oh, just
Under the table.
Yeah.
Black, real money.
Yeah, a lot of commerce in Italy. I don't know about now, but in the olden days, there was a lot of commerce in black money.
Well, and you were probably there. You weren't there on a work visa. You weren't there on a permit.
No,
You were just.
yeah, I did.
Oh, did you get a work visa?
I got my citizenship.
Oh, you got your
You did?
citizenship.
Yeah,
oh, that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, I thought I
have
figured that you
Italian
had done
passport and
Yeah.
codice fiscale, which is your social insurance number.
that.
Um,
So you were there legally.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. Well, nowadays you're not allowed. You're not supposed to spend more than 3 months in Europe
Yeah, that's
without
right.
leaving for 180 days.
Yeah,
But in those days, I think it didn't really.
that wasn't
matter.
applicable because
Yeah.
it's before the European Union, right? Or
Yeah.
was it?
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been.
It was
that
before the
time.
European
Yeah,
Union.
before the euro, before all of that.
Because we used to spend like I got paid in
Lira. Yeah.
So you at one point did graphic design,
I
and
did.
you did a little bit of ceramics work. So I'm
I
just
did.
trying to follow along between all the cooking, and I know that you have an interest in making shoes.
I did.
Yeah.
Then
You wanna
we'll
talk
see where
about
that goes.
You
We'll see.
know,
We'll see where that goes.
But there's
just
a lot.
I did.
Listen,
I was going to give it all
Yeah.
up and move back to Italy
Yeah.
some years ago, 4 years ago, and then COVID happened.
yeah,
That
you
changed
did have
everything.
a plan actually to go back to
Oh yeah,
Italy and
I was
had an
I was
apprenticeship
going to
lined
be
up.
I was going to be like this amazing shoemaker in Florence. Her name is Saskia, and I had sent her an amazing resume made out of leather and beautiful papers and all folded up in an interesting way and with photos and my bio. And I told her I want to maybe just change something. And she was like, yeah, I'll be your teacher. No problem. And then COVID happened. She was very impressed with that resume.
what was
She had told me that she had never gotten,
Anything like that.
and she's
I
like,
couldn't even
people.
imagine.
I've been approached by people to teach
Learn.
them
Yeah.
for the past 20 years, and I've never received a resume like that.
Like that.
Because I put care into it, right? I try to put care into everything.
Well, the
that I do.
creativity that you have and learned and developed over the years too, that goes into almost everything you do.
Well,
and the
being
interests
a-
as well. I mean, that's such a diverse array of interests that
Yeah.
just in those three other things besides cooking.
like being in the restaurant business, as we have been, all of us
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
for combined 100 years over here.
Pretty
probably.
close.
You start to get to know what people are looking for. You
Yeah.
know, like if I'm gonna go and be
Like those attention to
if I want to
detail.
be a carpenter's apprentice at this point, I will know how to present myself to a master carpenter and be like, here I am,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
For
it's in
what
your
you lack in
attitude.
experience, you make up for in the creative way you're going to ask
creative
and
or just the
presenting.
fact that
Yeah.
you're willing to
Yeah.
do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yeah, develop.
I think
and
that's
learn.
really important.
Yeah.
That I don't see as much now as I have in the past. It's like staff being willing to do whatever it takes to better themselves.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right? It's not the same as it used to be, I don't think. And that's not a slight
No,
against
because
anybody or
there is
anything.
those diamonds in the rough too that are actually old school
There
kind
are.
of way
There
of
are.
approach. And whether it be their parents or just innate in them as an individual, like there is those glimmers.
Mhm.
But as much as like when you describe your time at in Toronto and working at that hotel group and the number of people that have came out of that kitchen, and then even when you're looking at the Wedgwood in Vancouver and the number of people that work there, live there, that you had experience with, it's kind of like the time when and it's kind of like it's on a smaller scale, but the same idea of matching opportunity with timing and having all those people together, just like in the boom of technology when you had Apple and Dell and Bill Gates, and they're all given all this computer time at the universities for free, and they just dove into it because it was their passion. And then out of it comes these mammoth companies and people, and similar experience when you work and put yourself in these environments with like-minded people, given the opportunity,
Yeah.
greatness comes from it. And you think
Well, I'm
about,
glad to be in the same sentence as
but it's
as
true.
Apple and Dell and
Totally. And these are all just
What's his button?
microcosms of what success
What's
looks
his
what's
like.
his button Gates.
Yeah.
Gates and all this stuff. But I think those comparisons of giving people the freedom, but also putting groups of people together that are like-minded, passionate, and I think that is typical of our businesses too. Like as much as we've been the spearheads to motivate and move our businesses forward, we're able to build teams of like-minded people communicate our passion to them, and then have very high standards. And obviously that can chew some people up, and not everybody can perform in that environment. But once they get over the issue, like just, when you're spoken to by a chef in a certain way, you're just like, you're either going to cry or you're going to go, screw that. I'm going to overcome that. I'm going to challenge myself to do better.
Yeah.
And I think those environments, the reasons why we have businesses that have lasted as long as lasted, and kind of goes to that earlier point I was making about having these people that have been with us for so long and also share that same passion and drive. And it's not just about the monetary, it's about your own personal value and how you want to live your life and what you want to give back professionally. And how it enhances your personal life too. All that kind of stuff goes hand in hand.
I take you to be a very tenacious individual. That
It comes and goes.
The stubbornness is always there, though.
The tenaciousness comes and goes.
Tenaciousness comes and goes. And we're all just human, right? We have our ups and downs.
Yeah.
I'm at this point, I'm super lucky. I have my chef that I got to mention. A few of them, but one in particular, her name is Julia McInnes, and if it wasn't for her, I don't know where we would be. Like, and of course Matthias and all the chefs that have come through the doors, but Julia, God bless her, is at the top of the list. She is the most amazing person I have ever worked with, and I'm say that truthfully.
Yeah.
And and we have all our other people, Emily and Matthias, and of course Naomi, who's just unreal.
Yeah, and Katie
and Katie so we're really lucky at Zambri's to have a great staff.
Very, very professional, very nice, very informative. I mean,
like Haida and
even the Frank crew, and Jamie was a big part of
Jamie
where we've come in the last 7 years.
Part of it, yeah. And she chose to move on because like the restaurant industry, it's tough on you.
Yeah,
like she wants to get married and have kids, and it's tough to be in the restaurant business. And
I think we're tough people to work. As much as I think we're great employers and all that, like being in the epicenter of the amount of attention to detail and pressure, because we still have maintained that high standard. Like we haven't gone, let's compromise here, compromise there. No, we're still pushing people to be their best, and we're trying to educate them and move them along. But it's an intense environment, like when you're doing these parties at Christmas and it's never ending, and also dealing with all the bullets that come at you in the service end of it. It's stressful. And we don't lay off the gas, which is, part of who we are as people, but it's not easy to be in that environment. So the people that do make it last a long time, and we owe our success to them because we couldn't do it without them. Like if it was just me, you, and Joe driving the ship, and with Lewis, and we'd all be like, okay, let's kill each other, or, what do we do?
Well,
right?
we made that decision like 11 years ago or 12 years ago when we expanded.
Yeah,
we could have stayed where we were and continued to be a small restaurant, but things change, right?
Yeah, and grow and adapt, and we may have, knowing what we know now, we might have done it differently, but now that we've kind of go through the hard part of taking on that extra risk and debt and size, and bigger sometimes isn't always better, but obviously we've sowed our oats, and
growth is going to happen.
Yeah,
and now we have Big Wheel Burger as well, as you're aware.
Yeah.
You have it right there on your shirt.
Right on my t-shirt. Big Wheel is a sponsor of our podcast. I think the evolution of it, but
like we have over 100 employees, don't we?
Dude, we got like 140, including Zambri's and Big Wheel. Big Wheel's got
Zambri's,
90, and Zambri's has 40.
Yeah, that's 130, by the way, there.
Oh, shoot.
He's my accountant, too.
Well, I think, we go between 100, we go between 90 and 100. So we're 100 and 140. 140 is the top number that we've got.
Yeah, that's a big staff.
Yeah, it's
a big responsibility.
I was going to say.
It's a big responsibility. And we continue to do it with pretty much a smile on our face, and our focus on being the best that we can be for our industry and for our staff. Like, this is not only for us, this is for our staff too.
Well, and
You know,
they're
like, we're
learning.
very appreciative of what they have to offer and what they bring to the table, right? And
Care about their evolution
We
too.
care,
Like
yeah.
you know, for people that are with us, you know, they're not gonna be with us forever. I mean,
Yeah.
like some might be, but it's you know really interested in what they're going to be doing in their future. And we think of all the people that have come through the kitchen that you've met. I mean, the list is, you know, Derek
It's
Leframboise,
endless.
Derek Damon, like the list goes on and on and on and on of people that have, you know, Raphael, like just Anthony Shant, like go all the way through, and they all share the same one characteristic.
Jack Suey.
Jack, oh Jack, yes
Yeah.
sir, yeah, Jack, who was a dishwasher. for a
Oh
number of
man,
years.
he would come into
You
the
remember
coffee
Jack.
shop
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
He was very
You know, Francis.
Yes.
Francis
had a
CD.
huge
Oh my god,
impact on our
totally.
business.
Like our wine
Yeah.
program, the core, the heartbeat of our wine program, it still has her fingerprints all
Yeah.
over it.
It does.
And even that crossover the food and also the ability to train staff
Yeah,
in wine
Francis.
education and knowledge so that we don't need a single sommelier. Everybody has the traits and knows the knowledge to share with the customers. And I think that kind of elevates our relatively small wine list into an exceptional wine list because of the knowledge and teaching. But that all came from Francis.
And
Yeah.
what happened to Frances? Is she in town still?
She is, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I think she works for
Aperol. She ended up, like, we're talking somebody on a very high level with challenging herself and wanting to learn. She ended up learning more about cheese and becoming like a cheese sommelier,
Wow.
cheese master.
Yeah, and as well as the wine.
As well as wine. And
Yeah.
her wife Dita is like an
Amazing
amazing woodworker.
Huh.
These people are operating at a very high level.
Yeah, super
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
super fascinating.
No, yeah.
And it's where, but blessed to, I think, have gone through that. And I don't know, it's funny talking about all the people that have intersected through our paths that come and touched on us. And even Gabriele, you
Yeah.
know, who started, when we first started Zambri's, came over and he was a friend. He was working with Peter in
I
Italy.
worked with him in Valle d'Aosta.
Yeah.
I worked in the northwestern part of Italy for a season, in the summer season. It's a big ski area, but I was there in the summer. And that was pretty amazing experience as well. And I met this gentleman. He is a gentleman. His name is Gabriele, and he came and helped us open Zambri's for. He was there for a year.
Yeah. First year. That's
He
where,
lives in Wellington now.
yeah. And he's still married with Nikki.
Nikki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's his wife that he had brought over. I guess he met her on a trip to New Zealand because she
in England. He
oh,
met her in
he
England,
met her in
a
England.
restaurant.
Yeah,
in
but she
England.
was from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
She's a Kiwi. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she
And
came
they
and
live
lived
there
with
now
us.
with two kids, two boys.
Yeah, he just came up on a Facebook memory, and
Yeah,
I
did?
haven't actually. And that obviously his kid's older now, but I think he was 5 or something.
Yeah.
So maybe it's from a decade ago or whatever. But it's interesting when you know at the time the amount of attention and integration you have with these people, and then you know they go on, but you just see them you know doing their thing now. But it just brings back a lot of
It does.
good memories and.
Yeah. We had this little restaurant, this little Zambri's restaurant, our first restaurant. It was cute.
It was really
Like
cute.
we made something again. We made something.
What was your
Pretty
commitment? You
much
said,
nothing.
I'm going to give a good 10 years,
10
and that's
years.
it. And
then,
now we're
yeah,
25 years later.
25 years later. And then every year
That is
after
a
that,
good
okay,
10.
this is my last year.
Yeah, this is my last year. This is my last
I
year.
love. I still love it.
well,
Like, it's hospitality.
Yeah, it's
You
hospitality.
don't lose the sense of hospitality.
Yeah.
You have it forever.
Yeah.
Well, and it really stems from your upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like how you were taught and your food was a priority and hospitality is a priority and
Mm-hmm.
attention to detail, all of that. And to see how it manifests itself in a career and, you know, looking forward, you know, obviously, you know, life is like this, it's cyclical. So hopefully there'll be another time where we'll be able to foster this vibrancy again, you know, where I feel like there's an element of, you know, people want quick service. Like even Big Wheel, for example, like that, as much as, you know, we try to instill hospitality and all of that in that, it's very quick service and in and out and take out and you bring it home. And it doesn't foster what Zambri's fosters, where you're actually sitting down, you're breaking bread, you know, you're having conversations. This is where life happens, is around food. And so many important
For many
things,
cultures.
and you think throughout all the other cultures in the world, like Europe is still a huge part of it. Asia, huge part of it. Everything focuses around food, and North America is different, where food is sort of like for the majority.
There's
like
this statistic, and I can't really pull it up right now.
we make up stats here all the time.
I pull stats
this
out of
is
my
going-
butt all the time.
Yeah,
Don't
we're
worry.
both making up
It
stats.
has something to do with how many people actually eat lunch driving.
Oh,
Like
Yes.
half of
Yeah.
all American lunches, North American lunches, are
Right.
eaten by somebody sitting behind the wheel of their car because they're in a hurry to get somewhere else, or because that's their job. Or
it's your DoorDash driver taking one bite out
Right.
of everything he's delivering.
that changed it. This whole COVID thing really changed the industry.
Yeah. How do you see the industry coming out of it right now? Just putting on your crystal
Expectations
ball-
are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think expectations
From whom?
from both sides, everybody, everything. Like instant gratification is something now that we really have to deal with. It's just like slowing down and enjoying it is not as
not the
prevalent as it once was, from my perspective,
Yeah.
from what I see. Right,
I agree.
It's just easy. It's like, and people aren't going out as much. You're staying home more, which I don't mind. I love staying home as well, right? But there's just not as many people walking around. Like I look at downtown. There's just not as many people walking around on any given day. On weekends, it's usually normal. But I think that a multicultural city like Victoria would be a little bit more vibrant at this point, and it's. I guess it's getting there again or something. I don't know. That's just my perspective.
I
could be wrong.
We talk about this kind of thing quite often. I'm sure it's part of your daily conversation as well. But I always feel like the industry is like most things are being bought by fewer and fewer people, and the amount of variety and craftsmanship seems to be amalgamated into whoever can buy the most restaurants or grocery stores or whatever it is, land.
Individuality isn't what it used to be.
It's a lot harder. There's more barriers to entry because of that inflation of everything. Like even starting a restaurant now, if you don't have $1 million, like forget it.
Yeah.
Like you can look, and if you're smart, you can do it. Like I think our experience.
I bet you I could open a restaurant for $50,000.
But this is
I'm not
for
kidding
sure.
you.
But that comes from
Because
our experience.
it does,
right?
It does, because I'm super fortunate that I could make things work.
Yeah.
You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
Not just a dish, but the dishwasher and the plumbing.
equipment.
Well, you know
and
how
the
to fix them,
equipment
right?
and the electrical stuff
Yeah.
and whatnot. Like you're not going to pull the wool over my eyes
You're right.
because after 25 years in the restaurant business, and we started with like used equiment. All of our equipment
Yeah.
was used. We
Every
very
incarnation,
rarely
even
do
when
we
we
buy things
expanded.
that were brand new.
Yeah.
When we moved the Zambris, that was a different, whole different thing. But used equipment and talking to the plumbing guy and the refrigeration guy and whatnot. Yeah, I can make a restaurant for $50,000.
I believe. Listen.
So if
I
there's
believe
anybody
it.
out there that wants,
And Pete now, obviously, as we're wrapping up the podcast, Pete now, as he's, reaching, I'm not going to say twilight, but obviously,
Oh, man.
no, but we all grow. Even for me, like you don't see me in the restaurant as often as maybe I did before.
Yeah.
Doing the behind the scenes and working on other projects, and Pete's immense talents allowed us to open Langford a lot cheaper, and he's in there actually doing some of the build out and the working, and he does our maintenance for all of our stores and even in Zambris, and so allowing that variety and versatility in what he does, I think is a demonstration of immense talent
Absolutely.
and variety, which is like what makes you the person you are. But it's just like when you applied to be a shoemaker, right? Like it's just like, hey, anything in the world is my oyster, and I'm gonna apply the same ethic and work ethic in it, and bring my knowledge and what you innately have, and you can do anything you want. And I think that's inspiring.
we all can.
Yeah,
You just have to put your mind to it.
yeah, that's
You
right.
just have to put your mind to
And
it.
you got to keep healthy, and you have
Yeah,
to
have
keep
to keep
flexible.
healthy.
And I mean,
Eat proper.
yeah.
So
Eat real food.
Eat real food.
Yeah.
Get your rest. keep your mind clear. Stay off of drugs.
Oh
well,
man, all of
try
them?
try
off.
the hardcore drugs.
Yes, okay,
Yeah, the
there we go.
hardcore drugs. Yeah. We all need and have experienced the milder versions. And we don't want to, throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everyone
Right.
loves a little baby
Keep it
sometimes.
sane. Well, Peter, thank you so
I
much
don't
for
know
your
if
time.
was I okay? Was
Dude,
I-
you're amazing.
I got a lot more
Always good.
stories, I think.
Well,
but
we're gonna
next year.
Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
you on
Call me
again.
back.
Yeah, we'll do a
because
part
I think part
Yeah.
2 is needed for sure. And it's funny, like I was even when we did Greg Hayes and just hearing little things like we've been family for 30 years and some of the little droplets that I didn't even know about or I'd forgotten about or it's awesome. It's just it's
Yeah, we're very lucky to have each other.
100%. Like it's
And you too, Sam.
Oh, thanks. I don't want to feel like a third wheel.
No,
over here,
that's
but,
awkward. We got Sam
yeah,
here.
oh.
Awkward.
Somebody has to steer the boat and somebody has to push it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. I'll
And this
push.
is-
Yeah.
And you need
Sometimes
team.
then you steer. That's the
Yeah.
thing about a team is like sometimes you're in the
sometimes
position to
steering.
steer,
Exactly.
sometimes you're pushing.
Yeah,
Someone's got to be the Cox.
Yeah. Coxman.
Oh,
Coxswain.
It's
Coxswain.
not just
Coxswain. Coxswain.
Wayne.
Well,
Coxswain.
I'm going to leave
Peter
that.
knows about it.
Do I?
Well, I don't know. You would know.
I'm not
I
a
would
sailor.
No, but I would take your. You're not a rower. I guess you got to be a rower. I don't know.
Yeah, I
We've
think
really butchered the tail end of this.
That's okay. It
Anyway,
was fun.
Peter, I love you.
Love you
Thank
too,
you for
Kelly.
coming on.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thank
being
you.
here, Peter.
And
It's
thanks
great.
for participating in our
Yeah,
our show.
absolutely.
It's amazing.
See you next time, everybody.
All right,
Yeah,
cheers.
you will.
Yeah.
I'm glad everyone got to know a little bit more about where and what you are.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
Kaylin, love you too.
Thank you. Remember to be
And,
kind.
Yeah, you be nice, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles-Inspired Catering, and Zambri's.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.